Yeah.
Hey my loves, it's me Keisha aka Color Me Pynk, and I'm here with this week's All Tea All Shade Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip Season 3 Episode 4 review. Let's get right into this madness. We kick off the episode with the Miami girls asking Heather, can she and Whitney fix their relationship? And Heather was like, the issue is bigger because she admitted that she did it to play with the big dog. She said, I only wrote the book for the show and I'm still a Mormon. Okay. So Leah was like, well, Whitney basically told me to watch out for you. And so Heather, of course, is appalled and offended by this because how dare she tell you to watch out for me? I am the leader of my group. I am the lead singer of Meatloaf. How dare you? I mean, at this point, we all know that Heather is a liar from the 90s. She can't even keep her lies straight, ma'am. And she is another person that likes to play the victim all the time. So Porsha has planned a day of massages and games because what she initially had planned for her event had to get canceled because of the weather. So we then see Whitney FaceTime Lisa Barlow and tells her that Heather keeps saying that she's lying and doing everything for the show and how Heather wrote the book but is still a Mormon. Whitney was like, what I realized is because Heather recommended me for the show and I didn't realize how much of a loyalty I gave that. So I came in building a relationship on a mutual disdain for you and other people. And through that process, we created a real bond. She has everyone thinking I'm a liar. So I was like, oh, now we get the behind the scenes tea. So she and Heather weren't really that close prior to filming. I'm guessing that they knew of each other. They found out that they were cousins or whatever, but they weren't really close like that. Heather then brought her on to the show because, okay, we found out that we're actual cousins. She needed, an ally on this show. And allegedly she put all this negative information in her head about Lisa and some of the other girls. And so she came into the show being aligned with Heather and riding for Heather and feeling like she owed her something because she was the one that got her onto the show. And I was like, oh, so I'm thinking this whole time that her and Heather had a relationship prior to this show. But we now find out that they did not. And now that makes even more sense to what is going on between them because they never had a solid foundation going into the show in the first place. So Whitney in her confessional says, because she brought me into Housewives, I feel a sense of immense gratitude and loyalty. But what I realize is I don't owe her this blind loyalty. And no, she doesn't, because once again, it ain't like they were cousins. You know what I'm saying? Like they grew up together. Like I said, they didn't have a solid foundation. And now she's seeing Heather for who she really is. And she doesn't like what she sees. And I'm not going to sit up here and act like Whitney is a saint because she isn't. I don't like neither one of them. Couldn't care less about either of them. They both have done wrong. But I feel like they're both playing the blame game and not really wanting to take an accountability for what they both have done. We then see Porsha and Heather at the table eating. And Porsha is telling her to give Whitney some grace because they're blood and they can move on from this. And Porsha was like, she's 15 years into getting her name off the roll. When did you apply? And Heather was like, I haven't because it doesn't mean anything to me. And Porsha was like, well, wait a minute now. I thought yesterday you said you were getting your name removed. And then they flash back to the day prior when Whitney and Heather were arguing or whatever. And Heather was trying to drive a point by saying that, Whitney wasn't really that serious about removing her name off the roll because it took her 15 years to do it and she recently just did it, and how it's going to take her time to do it as well. And so Porsha now in her confessional was like, girl, you are a bad liar, not a bad Mormon, but a bad liar. And I was like, once again, Heather gets caught up in her lies because she just be talking just to be talking and don't even really be knowing what the heck she is talking about. The ladies then receive Thai massages, which can be very evasive. The Thai massages, they get up in there, if you know what I mean. They touch everything, okay? They gonna bend you, twist you, turn you, massage you, touch you, if you know what I mean. And honey, the white girls is just a moaning and a groaning, and it was so weird. I was uncomfortable. I wanted to fast forward that part because I just did not need to hear those sounds coming from those women's mouths. So afterwards, Gizelle and Heather talk, and Gizelle tells her to call Jen. So they calling Jen, trying to FaceTime Jen. Jen does not answer the phone. And I'm like, Gizelle, do you ever take a day off? Can we ever see the real you? Like, you are on producer mode at all times, and it's becoming draining. It's becoming boring. It's becoming team too much. It's fake. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're always trying to produce a moment, and we know it and we see it. And it's just like, girl, can we get the real you at some point? And that's going to be your downfall and get you fired, because that's what Tamara on OC started to do after a while. She started portraying herself as a character and just creating moments for the show. And people got sick of it. We saw through it. And that's why she got axed. And you're going to end up in the same predicament if you don't stop. Ladies gather to eat lunch, and Candace and Portia surprisingly bond over not liking oysters, honey, that look like vajayjays. They just can't get into it. So at the table, Candace ends up bringing up the Monique situation to Portia. It's finally happening. We're going there. Candace was like, you went on chat room and said that I was suing her for the down payment on my house, and it wasn't true, and it's defamatory. Portia was like, it's not if she's telling me her facts. Candace was like, but those are not facts. Gizelle was like, but you know, I use the same platform to defend you. So they not understanding what she got a problem for, because Portia relayed something that she was told by Monique. Gizelle then defended Candace, telling her side of the story, what she's seen and what Candace has said. So Candace was like, you know, she was given an opportunity to make a statement, and I was not. Nobody asked me for a statement. And Gizelle was like, it's the same thing. You're acting like I didn't ride for you, and I did. And so Gizelle in her confession was like, if I have to go on a press tour to defend you and you tell me to my face that you don't appreciate it, I'm done with you. Candace was like, I can be grateful that you spoke for me and still wish that I had an opportunity to speak for myself. Portia was like, but you should be more happy that she spoke for you, because I brought hearsay and she brought facts. Candace was like, you brought a statement from that raggedy A-Hope. She texted you a statement. Portia was like, it's hearsay because it wasn't first person. Candace was like, Howard University broadcast degree, okay? And Portia was like, you can have the degree, but I have the journalism job. Girl, you ain't got no journalism job working for Dish Nation. Girl, stop. That's like me calling myself a journalist. Girl, stop. You're not a journalist, ma'am. You are a gossip reporter. Stop. You ain't reporting hard-hitting news from Iraq. What? So Candace in her confession was like, Portia hasn't learned from the first time she repeated something she knew wasn't true, talking about the Candy and Phaedra situation of it all. She says it's hurtful that she's doubling down on being a bully once again. And this is my opinion on it. Candace has every right to feel some type of way about Portia, you know, riding for Monique or whatever, if that's what she chooses to do. You can't tell somebody how to feel. Considering the fact that Portia did not know her and had opinions on the situation, okay, she could feel some type of way. But at the end of the day, Portia and Monique were friends. So she was riding for her friend like anybody else would do, and how everybody else on the show was riding for Candace. The only backup that Monique had during that time period was Karen, to an extent. You know what I'm saying? So she had Portia, you know, a person that had her back as well. Would I have felt some type of way? Probably. Would I have addressed it? Maybe. But to sit up there and say that you got an attitude because she repeated something that Monique said to her on the show and you felt like you didn't get a chance to make a statement yourself. Girl, you had a whole season to make statements. You made statements all on the show. You made statements in interviews. You made statements on social media. What are you talking about? You act like you were mute throughout the entire situation, never got to voice your side of what happened. Like, Candace, now you just grasping at straws and you wanting to have a moment. You know what I'm saying? I can, like, once again, I can see you going to Porsha like, I don't appreciate you, you know, saying whatever you said about me and the situation, but to be mad because you didn't get to make a statement, girl, sit down somewhere. You doing too much. And Gizelle did have your back. We all know that Gizelle only had your back because she didn't like Monique and wanted Monique off the show. But nonetheless, she had your back and defended you tooth and nail every chance she got. So in this situation, have several seats, please, ma'am. It was Porsha imitating Candace crying in her confessional that had me weak. She was like, Candace ain't gonna leave a tear behind. And that's the God honest truth. I'm so sick of her and them napkins. Girl, please lose yourself. And it was Marisol saying, it's just a fluff opinion show. It's not an investigative reporting. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. Skeletor got it right. Like, girl, it's a gossip show. Get over it. The ladies end up playing a game called Spill It or Chew It. And with the game, you either have to spill the tea or eat a scorpion or eat some of a scorpion or whatever. So Leah is asked the question, who would she like to not see back on the next season of Real Housewives of New York? She did not want to answer. Whitney is asked to name 3 things that Heather has lied about on camera. She refuses to answer, so she eats a piece of the scorpion. Heather is asked to say who punched her in the eye. She refuses to say, but we already know. After all the games, the ladies return to their rooms, and you know, Alexia and Marisol are sharing a room, and Alexia is getting tired of Marisol, child. She's getting on her nerves. They're in too close of quarters. Like, it's just seemed too much. Like, they need to be separated. And we're seeing the build up of them ending up getting into it. That night, it's Gizelle's turn to host an event. And she plans a Mardi Gras night because, you know, her family is from New Orleans. So Porsha and Gizelle talk about Candace on the ride to the restaurant that they're going to. And Porsha was like, I feel like one person has it out for 2 people and it's Candace. But then if we both get her at the same time, she's going to say, you're bullying me. But talking about you got anxiety because you don't know us. And Gizelle was like, you know, it's never good enough for her, even with the Chris situation. And Gizelle was like, Gizelle, you're the reason why people of sexual, you know the word, don't come forward. And Porsha was like, oh my God, that's so damaging. And Alexia was like, but you never even said it was sexual, you know the word. And Gizelle was like, we'll discuss it, but not tonight. I do feel like Candace came with an agenda to come after Porsha for sure, but her and Gizelle weren't getting along, period. I think that she did want a moment with Porsha to prove that she can go toe to toe with her, but Porsha, you can tell, was just not engaging. Like, she didn't care to go back and forth with Candace because, you know, we all know that she could, but I don't think, like she said, she's there as a spectator. She's not taking any of this serious. But Candace was taking it seriously. So they get to the restaurant, and after they eat, they play a game of reasonable or shady. And Gizelle was like, is it reasonable or shady to call someone a bully when they're not? And Candace was like, shady, you were being bullies. Hit dogs will holler. And Leah was like, I was bullied. And Porsha is like, girl, y'all can stop using that word. I don't like it. And in her confessional, she was like, if Candace wasn't trying to argue with me or Gizelle, she would not be taking up for Leah right now. I don't necessarily know if that's true. Do I think that Gizelle and Porsha were bullying Leah? No. They were coming at her, yes. But bullying, no. No, I don't think so at all. This is what these ladies get paid to do. Turn up and have arguments over the most dumbest stuff ever. So absolutely not. Absolutely not. So Gizelle was like, is it reasonable or shady to name a book a title you don't believe in? That was shade towards Heather. Whitney surprisingly tries to stick up for Heather and was like, I want to give Heather the platform to say where she is with the church. Heather was like, it's such a non-issue. And Alexia was like, you can leave your marriage without signing the paper. So Heather, I get it. So they high-five each other. And once again, Whitney is sitting there with egg on her face because she was trying to have another moment to put Heather on blast. And it didn't work, even though what she was saying was valid. But, you know, she ain't got nobody there to back her up. And Heather has basically won public opinion amongst the ladies, even though I think they all look at both of them sideways, just like myself. So they leave, and Portia brings up how Heather and Whitney argue and then ride in the same car together and kiki like everything is all good, which is weird to me too. I don't understand how people play them type of games. Whitney, once she gets back to the house, goes in her confessional, in the confessional room, and says the 3 things that Heather lied about on camera is that she was never friends with Lisa Barlow, she hasn't left the Mormon church, and she knows Jen gave her the black eye. So it's obvious there is still tension and a rift there. But my thing is, if you was going to go into the confessional booth and spill the 3 things that you feel like she lied about on camera, why didn't you just say it at the table? It makes no sense. Like, to me, that was being pussy. Like, just say what you mean and stand on it. Like, why go and say that in a confessional, Whitney? Like, oh, God, grow up. Overall, this episode was cool. I'm going to give this week's episode a B+. It was entertaining because it was funny. Portia makes the show very funny, even though, you know, I really don't care for Portia, but I gotta give kudos when kudos are due, and she has kept this show very, very entertaining. Gizelle is messy, but she's also entertaining. You know what I'm saying? Alexia and Marisol ain't really bringing it per se to me. I like that Leah has a like I don't give a F attitude about the situation, but I wish she wouldn't let the girls get to her or bother her. Candace, I wish she would be more funny, you know, in her scenes and not just in her confessionals. You know what I'm saying? And who else on this trip? Heather just gives me old 80s rocker. Like, I just can't take that lady seriously. I just cannot. I don't. Y'all let me know, however, what y'all thought about this week's episode of Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. Make sure to thumbs up this video, like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell button. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.